Okay, I'd like to refer you to our next show, the 9th episode of the Maritime Medical Marijuana Show. Today, David is my joint host.
And today, Chris is my joint host.
Weird place to throw your inflection. That's awesome. All right, today's episode is brought to you by Karma Compassion Society. At Karma Compassion, we believe that people who have conditions that may be treated through the use of cannabis should be able to do so without fear of discrimination, persecution, or fear of arrest. They take care of patients from Ottawa to Halifax, and by take care of, I mean they help people grow, prepare, consume, and manage their medical marijuana. Before we begin, there's a couple of shout-outs I wanted to shout out about. First is MUM, Maritimers Unite for Medical Marijuana. They're a great not-for-profit organization that really tries to make changes in the current political landscape when it comes to medical marijuana. Always looking for new members. Look us up. Check it out. Come on board. And then there's David's website, madstories.ca, MMADstories.ca.
I highly recommend it.
Absolutely. It's a great site. He's got a couple of great calendars for legal events and cannabis-related events. And then there's all the information that he provides there as far as anything that you might be looking for in regards to medical marijuana, legal or otherwise. So you've talked to your doctor. He's approved you for medical marijuana. You've got your license in the mail. And maybe you got the seed sent to you from Health Canada. But what do you do? How do you grow? What's next? That's what we're here for, okay? We're here to help you navigate the slippery slope that is the medical marijuana landscape.
Yep.
If you have any questions, ask us. Find us on YouTube. Otherwise, every episode we'll we'll be looking for ways to answer questions we think you might be having. Nothing that we say is legal advice. Nothing that we say is medical advice.
Disclaimer.
It's just our opinion.
Yeah.
We're just a couple of guys having some fun and trying to share some information and some personal experience. Now that that's out of the way, our topics of interest today are going to be the proposed changes to the medical marijuana access regulations.
And more specifically, the CCIC, letter that they wrote on that topic, and, of course, our points of view on the letter.
Absolutely. And we're going to have our gadget corner and a bit of a lighting advisory, a lighting for your power requirements. So we'll start with the changes to the MMAR, and David's going to fill us in with that, and he's going to be clear and concise.
All right. So, like I said, I'm going to start by reading a letter. I'm not going to go everything word for word, and like I said, we're going to put our own stuff in, but most of it's verbatim. It's a letter from the Canadian Consortium for the Investigation of Cannabinoids, Dr. Mark A. Ware, President and Executive Director, regarding the Health Canada proposed improvements to the Marijuana Medical Access Program. The Canadian Consortium for the Investigation of Cannabinoids is a federally registered non-profit organization whose mandate is the promotion of research and education on cannabinoids in health and disease. The CCIC and its members, including over 150 scientists, physicians, and other healthcare professionals, have been involved with the MMAR program since its inception as a Section 56 exemption program in 1999. We have been involved in doing some of the critical research on cannabis and cannabinoids at the bench and bedside and into wider society, and in the last 2 years we have embarked on an extensive medical education campaign on cannabinoids that is receiving international recognition and attention. Overall, we see the proposed changes as a positive step, recognizing in particular the public safety issues that have arisen around lack of regulation on designated growers and the lack of access to physicians who are willing to sign MMAR authorization forms. We accept the concerns laid out in the document as valid, but we feel it is important to point out that the concerns do not, at this time, stem from concerns around the safety and the use of drug by patients. We are also pleased that the intent of the program remains true and wish to highlight the fact that the intent is to provide seriously ill Canadians with reasonable access to the legal source of marijuana for medical purposes. The proposed changes include the following steps. Physician-patient interaction, and there's a few of these, and it starts off with number 1. Eliminate Health Canada's role in reviewing MMAR applications. This is appropriate. HC's role should be in regulating the program, not deciding who is or is not eligible.
Exactly. Once the doctor signed, you're legal. They're just processing the paperwork. That's all there is to it. Yep. You shouldn't have to wait. You don't wait for any other prescription. You go to the doctor. He says, get cough syrup. You go to the store, you get cough syrup. You don't have to wait 6 to 8 weeks to get your cough syrup. It's ridiculous. Yep. You're sick now. You need the meds now. Thank you. Next.
2. New supply and distribution system. This is also reasonable, provided that access and choice is improved. See below. Emphasis on physicians to authorize access. This is number 3. This is where a major issue is going to be faced with this process. There are 2 issues. The first relates to the need for further education. The second issue relates to the fact that physicians who are educated about the endocannabinoid science and who elect to become involved with MMAR are only in a position to identify if cannabis is a reasonable treatment for the specific medical condition of their patient. Physicians will not have access to reliable information as to whether the patient has been arrested for trafficking or diversion in relation to drugs in the past.
Not that that should matter. I don't understand why that matters at all, okay? If you're sick and you need it, you're sick and you need it. It doesn't matter that you got in trouble for it one time before.
Yeah. The proposed changes to the MMAR place the physician squarely in the role of gatekeeper. The issue of physician education will have to be examined, and concrete, accessible, and effective programs will need to be put into place and evaluated. Physicians will need simple guidelines and access to support, and the task of the Expert Advisory Committee will be paramount in this process. Including in this will be the need to make the new forms simple, clear, effective, and legally and ethically acceptable.
Simple forms. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about that?
Well, I know how to fill them out, but I know that there's lots of patients and doctors that it's just it's been a problem. That's for sure.
35 pages makes it a daunting task. When you don't need 35 pages for anything else.
No, you need 35 pages to need us to, well, you know, because we help you out.
Exactly.
We don't need to exist. We really don't. All right, so number 4, no more categories of conditions or symptoms. We support this. Cannabis, in its herbal form, is not an approved drug, so it's misleading to have approved indications. I've always said this myself. MDs will need access to such data as does exist on cannabis and cannabinoids for more common presenting disorders. See below. So, like, the whole Category 1, Category 2, there's no reason for it. Like, if
either you need it or you don't.
Yeah, and is either proven safe and effective for, you know, certain groups of patients, or it's not.
Yeah.
So
no, so that makes sense.
Health
too.
Canada's point is, you know, it doesn't have any medical value, but then it categorizes patients. Right, and that's what they're against.
Stereotyping. It's discriminatory.
Now, when they say see below, this is number 5. Set up an expert advisory committee to improve physician access to information.
It's a great idea, okay? I mean, if they don't know, they at least have to have a place where they can get the information.
I doubt most doctors know about the information for health care professionals document on the Health Canada website.
Probably not. I mean, but that's where we can tell them those little tidbits, and the rest that they can make the call and find out if that's the best medicine or if that's even an approved medicine for the condition that for the patient they're treating.
Yeah. Number 6, work with medical community and licensing authorities. And they go on to say, developing a knowledge transfer mechanism, like, you know, the expert advisory committee, will be critical to inform and engage provincial colleges in the process. Other important stakeholders at the provincial level include insurance companies, example, workmen's compensation. And there's actually something we'll be talking about later on about that. Automobile insurance and medical schools. All right, so that was those number 1 to 6. The next portion is marijuana production and distribution. So the other stuff was the doctor,
Yeah.
patient interaction. Here, the CCIC has no experience, but we suggest that the key to success of this part of the program will be in finalizing the level of regulation required to act as a commercial producer. The screening and approval process will need to be balanced between regulatory rigor and fairness for competition. Makes sense? Number one under this, no contracted supplier. We agree. Health Canada should not be in the business of growing and selling cannabis.
Not when their first choice to grow cannabis was underground. Okay? The sun is for free. They can grow it and not have to worry about the security like anybody else would have to. But no, they figured underground was the best idea. Next.
Established licensed commercial producers. See above. Phase out personal and designated production. They feel this is a good idea for DGs, but argue, and this isn't their response, this is kind of our, from reading it, because they wrote a lot, and it comes down to this. They feel this is a good idea for designated growers, but argue personal production licenses should be allowed under close monitoring.
Well, yeah, because they're aware, like everybody else is, of the therapeutic benefits of gardening and growing your own medication.
Yep.
As well as a lot of the patients, sick people, wind up on lower fixed incomes, and growing it themselves is much more cost effective over what they'd have to be paying if they were buying it from a club or even from the government or one of these larger commercial grows.
Now, I
swear we're going to get greased, man. It's going to be $10, $12 a gram minimum.
I just saw something earlier on. We were talking about how the personal production license, they're worried that the person might be a criminal. The doctors, remember?
Yeah, absolutely, but that doesn't
matter. Yeah, but if they're saying that, we think there should be close monitoring, then yeah, it shouldn't matter because regardless, the law applies to everybody.
But there already was monitoring, okay? They didn't do it, okay? They were allowed to, okay? Give me a break, okay? We said go ahead. Everybody that signed the license said, we know that you guys will said you're going to come. We've all been sitting around waiting. Everybody that gets a license sits there and waits that one day somebody's going to come knock on the door. And,
even if they don't know the law,
and come look at what you're doing. But do us a favor. If you're going to do that, know something. So maybe we can ask you a question for the love of God.
Yeah. Number 4, regulate and monitor commercial producers. We agree. And we agree too.
Absolutely. I mean, if I got to pay if you're going to be greasing me for it, it might as well be getting the best stuff. They might as well have to jump through the hoops.
Allow commercial producers to grow more than one strain, set prices, and sell direct to consumer via mail or courier. We agree.
It just depends what the prices are going to be. We got to be careful. I mean, when you can grow it yourself for about $1.25, $1.35 a gram, okay? That's what you're growing for indoors for half decent pot. The government already charges $5 a gram plus tax. Mm-hmm. And the larger commercial growers, you're going to hit $8, $10, $12 a gram. Set what prices? They have to pay income tax for their employees, EI, unemployment, disability. They've got to cover all those other expenses, all the permits that they're going to need to be compliant with Health Canada.
Yeah,
we're going to get slammed on it. It's going to be ridiculous, and we're going to try and compare that to $2 a gram maximum. Like I said, $1.25, $1.35. So there'd have to be some serious price fixing
to be good for patients.
To be good for patients, because they're going to run away with it. Yeah. They're trying to make money.
All right. So concluding comments. The main concern for the CCIC at this point is a lack of any attempt to stimulate research on the endocannabinoid system and the medical use of cannabis and other cannabinoids. And I just thought too, do you guys remember when the federal government, I think it was Stephen Harper at the time, canceled medical cannabis research?
No, I don't remember that.
Yeah, well, they were looking at funding it, and I think they were right on up till 2006, but then they cut it. I'll have to source that. Anyway, one of the main barriers to the entire process has always been a lack of data, and it is only through research that we can provide up-to-date information to healthcare providers, patients, and the public. To resolve this, the CCIC proposes that any and all commercial producers who are licensed under the new regulations must contribute a percentage of their revenue to a centrally managed independent cannabis research and education fund. CARE is what they call it.
So even when they're not involved in it, they still want, beyond taxes and fees and stuff, they want an extra charge, okay, to establish another. Oh my God! Whatever way they can get the money.
A funding tax. That's what it kind of is, really.
It's terrible.
All right, and they finish up their conclusion. By doing so, is also committed to adding to a body of knowledge on the subject and international scientific and clinical community. Now, at the same time, I understand where they're going from this. They want money to be funded into cannabis research. There's a lot of people using medical cannabis, but again, you know.
But yeah, and it's a shame to waste that body of information. Okay, they should be compiling that and doing something with it.
Yeah.
These days with computers, it can't be that tough.
I know. So that was that topic. I just wanted to throw in there. Recently, there were statistics. There's 26,222 people with authorization to possess. 16,549 of those people are personal production licenses. And we did the math, and it comes out to 63% of patients grow their own. That's a large majority. There's also 3,199 DGs. That means 12% of patients have a DG. So altogether, that's 75% thereabouts approximately. And
at least 25% of people that pick it up from Health Canada themselves.
Yeah. So the buy from Health Canada model is already pretty much not working.
No, nobody wants it. The only people that want it are the people that don't have any other option.
All right, so what we're going to do now is have a legal section.
Yeah, there's just a lot of legal things that come up, and we like to try and make people aware of. And one that just kind of came up as an issue legally for somebody in court is came up in regards to acquiring a search warrant. And the case is that if you're using what the government thinks or Health Canada thinks is too much power for you to operate your legal medical grow, the police can get a warrant. So when the police call Health Canada to find out that you're licensed, okay, they find out how many plants you're growing, okay, for a grow that's for 15 plants, Health Canada will tell the police that you should be using no more power than 2 1,000-watt light bulbs. Okay, that being the case, that's one bulb plus your fans and a dehumidifier and whatever else you might have running in the room. So one light for 15 plants is what Health Canada is saying. So any more power than that, as far as they're concerned, is cause for a search warrant. Okay, and so as a group, we're putting in information to access information request.
Yep.
To find out what Health Canada says they're willing to tell the police for information. If you call Health Canada yourself and say, I've got 15 plants, how many lights am I supposed to use? They'll say that it's none of their business. You use however many lights you want. Okay, but if they're going to tell the police something different, okay, they should be telling us that in the first place.
Yeah.
And none of us want to have the police kick the door in, okay, when all of us are just trying to grow some medicine. So.
All right, so John Trammell has out a survey. Now, for some of you who don't know, John Trammell, I guess you call him a self-defender. He helps people in courts and stuff. There's a survey on his site. It's got MMAR flaws in it, and he's looking for patients to send an email to Mike Spottiswoode, who is trying to go to the Supreme Court to argue charter challenge. If you feel like a point applies to you, then, you know, and you feel like you want to get involved, send off an email with the stuff that's checked.
Yeah, here's the link. Look. Okay, check it out. And there's 25 different points on there. One of them applies to you, I guarantee. Yeah. You'll agree with at least one thing on there. And the more people that join onto his case, the better things will be for him. And
yes.
The more it'll help all of us. So check it out, see what he has to say, and see if you're interested in joining on.
Now, Flute Wood goes back to court on the 8th of February for his pot charges, and the Supreme Court judge, who is Justice Scanlon said the other day that we should not be waiting so long for a decision from the Court of Appeals in Ontario. Matt Murna case he referenced, and there's no reason that we cannot make the landmark decision right here in Nova Scotia, and the rest of Canada can follow us into the future.
Well, this is true. I mean, like, why are we all waiting for Matt Murna's case? How about somebody just say, screw it, okay, I'll make a decision, okay, and then we'll find they can make their decision. Somebody's got to do something. They're holding over so many different court cases, waiting for Matt Murna's. I mean, it's like nobody knows what to think for themselves.
Now, Flute has been in front of this judge at least 5 times, and he has been quoted as saying, "I really trust him to save us here in Cumberland County." He goes on to say, "We will all find out in Fed. This is the best thing that could have happened for all of us cannabis users in less than 4 months. This judge is going to make a name for himself and set us free in the process."
Right on. He's pretty enthusiastic. He's ready to go. He's all excited for the fight, and he feels he's got a very good point to make. So, Flute, power man, take care of it. Then we got Carrie Heilman in Regina, Saskatchewan. Here's a link for her webpage. And there's a Workmen's Compensation Board hearing, and they're wondering if they will cover his medical marijuana. He's been contacted by several media outlets now for quite a while. They're looking for the answers, and he's waiting for the answers himself. So we'll all be looking forward to seeing if the WCB will cover medical marijuana.
Calvin from New Brunswick has court Friday, like probably the day this video comes out, I'm guessing, or
thereabouts.
He is a legal patient, got his pot taken in a raid, and his lights and stuff like that too. And when his pot was returned, I guess it was moldy. And we're rooting for you, and nobody should be going through this. And hopefully we can help you out.
Yeah, best of luck to you there.
Current events: Cash Hyde succumbs to cancer. Family says medical marijuana extended his life. Lived half of his life with a feeding tube surgically attached to his stomach, and about half his life was spent in hospitals.
Half his life? He's 4.
Yeah.
Right, just so you know, he's 4, so half his life. I mean, come on, that's baloney. It's crazy.
After a diagnosis with brain cancer is what it was. It was the same cancer that claimed his life on Wednesday night. He had beaten it twice, but after 2 full remissions, his 3rd appearance was too much. He passed away in his father's arms at the family home in Missoula.
In Montana, yeah. And 20 minutes after he passed away, the police showed up. They barged their way. They forced their way into the house.
Yeah.
They were asked to leave. They wouldn't. I guess they're now under investigation. I mean, it was in such bad taste. They just lost their son, and they just wanted some time. I don't even know why they do it. I don't know what kind of a kick they get out of that for some reason. And my heart goes out to the Hyde family.
CTV joins Jody Emery to listen to Mark's first mainstream media appearance since him being extradited to the United States by Stephen Harper's conservative government. In the radio address done on Monday the 19th, just the other day, Mark endorses Justin Trudeau, the Liberal leadership candidate, who has recently said he is a huge supporter of marijuana decriminalization.
We've got the video here for you of Jody and Mark talking with the news.
The BC man known as the Prince of Pot has been behind bars in the U.S. for 2 years now. Today, for the first time, Mark Emery got a chance to address a national radio audience from prison. The pot activist says he's determined to keep up his campaign, which could involve the upcoming provincial election. CTV's Maria Weisgarber reports.
Smells like freedom.
Something Mark Emery hasn't had since 2010, when he was extradited to the States and sentenced to 5 years in prison for selling marijuana seeds over the internet.
A lot of people haven't heard from him. A lot of people really love Mark and support him, and for 2 years they haven't heard his voice.
Today, Emery's supporters got that chance.
No one should have to go to jail for their personal choices that don't harm others.
Though he isn't eligible for early release until July of 2014, Emery took to the airwaves on a national radio show while still behind bars in Mississippi.
Anywhere in the world there's going to be injustice over a drug war, I'm going to be fighting that. And I'm certainly going to be doing it primarily in Canada.
Emery's wife Jody says his incarceration was intended to hurt the pro-pot movement, but she believes that intention ended up backfiring, especially in the U.S., where both Colorado and Washington State recently voted to legalize marijuana.
A lot of people really feel that he did a lot of the groundwork, and so in the United States, when he was extradited, I know a lot of people said personally, I'm going to keep fighting, I'm going to do as much as I can.
The upcoming provincial election could also become a focus for their campaign. Jody Emery has run for office before, representing the Green Party in 2009, something Mark is encouraging her to do again in 2013, and she's not ruling it out.
Because I had that opportunity to speak as a candidate about prohibition, I think it educated a lot of people and brought a few people around perhaps to our issues, so I might run again.
Jody Emery says another kind of campaign is set to begin in January.
Bye, I love you, sweetheart. I love you. Bye.
One aimed at getting Mark Emery transferred to a Canadian prison. Maria Weisgarber, CTV News, Vancouver.
And like I said, we talked about one episode before about Mark didn't really agree very much with Justin's viewpoints on medical marijuana, and he felt kind of betrayed, but I guess time heals all wounds, and Justin's kind of came around in his view and is more accepting of medical marijuana, and hopefully he's the right guy for us to fall in behind and endorse. Beyond that, we've got the Maritimers Unite for Medical Marijuana, MUM, a non-profit provincial society lobbying for change in the current medical marijuana landscape, held a peaceful assembly at Grand Parade Square in Halifax on November 13th from 12 till 2 to draw attention to Health Canada's intention to remove the personal production and designated production licenses, allowing patients and caregivers to produce medical marijuana. Now, there was only about a dozen of us that showed up there with signs that we'd prepared a week before, and that wasn't a whole lot of people, but there was just as many media crews.
Yep.
So that was amazing that all of us basically gave interviews to one media crew or another for 2 hours solid. I think I gave 5 different interviews. It was great.
Yeah, it was nice.
So
you guys told me I was out there waving my sign around. You guys told me to cut it back a bit. Apparently
he's a little rowdy. It was a little funny. Power to the people. Woo! But no, it was really good. We were told that we shouldn't have done it there. We should have done it at legislature. But there was a union protest at legislature. They go, well, why didn't you do it at your MP's office? And well, maybe that would have been right. But man, I couldn't have had more attention drawn to that event if we had laid down in the middle of Barrington Street.
Plus, there was a lot of high-profile people walking through that place because of...
At the World Trade and Convention Center, they're holding their first caucus meeting, so all the politicians walked by and had to wonder what was going on. So it was, I think it was a great place to be, and I look forward to doing more of the exact same protest once the weather starts to get warmer again in the spring. I think that was it for the end of for this year, though.
Yeah. All right, so some news on Neil Magnuson.
Oh, Neil. Brother Neil.
His stay in Marathon was memorable. He thought it was unexpected. He goes on to say, a big thanks to Mark for giving me a place to stay and making me feel at home with my disabled van. And to Hutch for helping me in several ways, including getting a mouthful of gas when helping me siphon gas.
Yeah, mate.
Mark runs a very nice restaurant called Rover's Return, just off the highway as you're entering Marathon. I highly recommend it. And Neil is welcome there. I'd go there, that's for sure. He goes on to say, it was a real highlight meeting with the mayor. The people at the TD Bank were kind and helpful. The weather was very cold to me, but otherwise nice, and I will be happy to return one day. But now I am 45 minutes up the highway at the GM dealership, facing the prospect of finding another way home. My hope that the GM dealership would know the van, find the problem, and solve it easily did not pan out. So now I will try myself, but it is not looking good. Alright, so as of now, the van is toast, and Neil is looking for another way back from for him and his stuff. So he has a place to stay, or sorry, he has a place to leave the van in the meantime.
But yeah, it's over and he needs a ride home.
Yeah.
Somebody got to get him back to BC. Maybe some of his sponsors like CannabisCulture.com, VancouverSeedBank.com, Grannies for Grass on Facebook, PainManagementSociety.org, Crazy Diamond Seed Company, or Butter King Butter could get together and sponsor a better vehicle for him, so he has a better chance to do this tour all the way around. He's got quite a great message and could use a little bit more support than what he was getting.
Yeah, so now those are the sponsors, but if you want to, sponsor him yourself, give him some money, I'm sure he'd take it.
Yeah, I'm sure he'd be happy to take money.
All right, that's with Neil. Now we're going to move on. The MUM calendar is at the printers now. It should be out by the end of the month.
Yeah, it was supposed to be out by the 18th for the
Now I've seen it.
conference, but no, it's by the end of this month for sure. Then we've got the UFC. Anybody that follows the UFC, light heavyweight Thiago Silva had failed his UFC on Fuel TV 6 post-fight drug screen. UFC officials today announced that Silva tested positive for marijuana metabolites and has been suspended for 6 months in order to take part in a drug rehab program. That's bullshit. You're not going to teach him anything about marijuana. You're not going to reform him. It's a joke and something that everybody agrees to stay out of jail, I guess. I mean, what else are you going to do? But it's wrong. Marijuana at that point, before you step into the ring, is not what I'd call a performance-enhancing drug.
Yeah. Now Ted Smith is still promoting his book across Canada. Doing conferences and stuff like that.
His book, right there, Hempology 101. Great book. Thank you very much. He also puts out a newspaper. Just want to draw you guys' attention to it. Putting it out for a few years now. Cannabis Digest.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great paper. All kinds of fantastic articles, and well worth picking up. You can get it on his Hempology 101 site.
Now, see,
I had to plug it.
We're plugging it here, right?
I had to plug it because he was here.
Yeah. So Ted was, like you say, he was actually here, and we did an awesome interview. Like, really, we killed it.
Yeah. And then I killed it.
But yeah, there was technical problems. It was technical problems.
Yeah, technically, Chris screwed up. And now there was no sound. So I got like 40 minutes of great video and not a word. So
gotta laugh it off.
He wanted to mention his stuff. I wanted to make sure I got that out there. And I'm going to put a little video here about him being in Nova Scotia. And there you go.
And a lot of people really come to us for education, right? The store is really a separate thing. Right? If you're into the store, fine, but if you look at my webpage, it's like there's nothing commercial going on.
Yeah.
I haven't, and I got to do a better job with my newspaper, honestly, because I'm trying to sell advertising, right? But it's not working out too well. But I really try to put the promotion second and just do the education part. So that's why it's not all over the other pages.
Yeah. I don't even know if there's a link to it. Well, I guess there is a link to it on Hempology.ca. I'm not sure. But yeah, you're right. It's not very. There's not much focus on the shop. I really like the thing you had there, the bond.
Oh, the can bond?
Yeah, the can bond.
Yeah, I'm gonna be able to start promoting that again. We brought it out back in 2000. Back then, or 2003, I think, even when the Liberals were still in charge, and there was some enthusiasm around. And then with the with the Conservatives, then it just seemed like there was not much hope.
Yeah.
But now it's like I think I'll be able to use that as a good fundraiser to help out with my tours and conventions and everything.
Yeah.
Actually, in the next issue of my newspaper, I'm going to kind of revive the can of bonds a little bit as a way for people to help contribute to the fund. certificate out of it.
Yeah.
I know there's some people that have bought them that swear they're like just waiting to cash it in. Right?
Oh yeah.
Just fine. I'm sure when it's legal, man, I'll fucking cash them in somehow. Like, you
Some
know.
framed them and said they'll never cash them in. It's so funny. Oh, yeah.
When we actually go through the official interview,
Why won't
I
you
guess,
do this? Hey?
I won't give you my other microphone.
Well, as you probably know, the U.S. states of Colorado and Washington have just voted to legalize and regulate marijuana. And Ted Smith thinks it's time we did the same in this country. He's the author of this book, which is called Hempology 101. And he's now touring Canadian university campuses mainly, trying to establish hempology societies. He attracted a couple of dozen people at Dalhousie last night. He'll be at Mount A tomorrow night. And he's here with us in the studio tonight. Welcome to the East Coast. You're a West Coast boy.
Well, originally from Ontario. I'm a seventh-generation farmer, but yeah, I've been out west for 18 years now and an activist for 17.
In our country, BC has a reputation as a place where there's a lot of pot being used, legally and illegally. That's fair, right?
Oh, I think that would be a fair assessment, but really it's not as out of step with the rest of the country as you might think.
Okay.
You know, there's a lot of people consuming cannabis coast to coast, but you know, BC is a leader in that sense.
How often do you use marijuana?
Oh, I use it every day.
Yeah. When was the last time you used it?
Oh, 20 minutes ago.
So you're high now?
Yeah.
Are you carrying pot with you now?
Not on me, no.
Not on you. Do you worry at all that what you're doing is illegal?
No. You know, it's a concern to someone that uses and smokes cannabis. Certainly it's been a concern in selling medical marijuana without a license as well.
Which you did.
So, yeah, which I did until last month. So I've been breaking the law in this sense for decades now. So, you know, after a while, the absurdity of the law doesn't make one walk around feeling any guilty. Like, I realize it's illegal if I get caught with it, but I have no sense of fear of the law or of the implications of being arrested. In fact, being arrested again would only probably help my career at this point.
What do you see, though, as the point or the advantage in being high all the time, or almost all the time?
It helps me relax. I'm a pretty high-strung person. I used to drink a lot, and the combination of being high-strung and drinking wasn't very good for me and others.
Yeah.
And I find that cannabis helps me relax. And scientifically speaking, I've now come to understand how it does relax the nerves on a chemical level. It basically complements what is known as the endocannabinoid system. We produce the very same chemicals that the plant does internally to calm our nerves and to maintain, you know, kind of balance within our systems. And so cannabis
is
just
it a
helps
good idea,
calm
though?
me down.
Is it a good idea, a desirable idea, to create a society where virtually everybody could be high all the time, which is where this ultimately could lead, I suppose?
Well, right now we have a society where people can be intoxicated to a point all of the time, right? Alcohol is legal. You know, prescription drugs can often have more of a mental and physical impact even than cannabis.
Fair enough, but you're not going to argue
And
that they're
so-
good things. You're not going to say it's good for people to be drunk all the time, or it's good for people to be high on, you know, hydromorphone or something all the time.
No. And experience has been in countries like Amsterdam where it's become legal, fewer people actually consume than do in countries like Canada where it's not. And so, you know, it's something, though, where I think people should have the right to choose what they do. And so the question is, do we want to live in a free society, or do we want to live in a society where someone above us can tell us what is right or wrong without having any good moral or scientific justification for it?
To get to the sort of broad brush, what are you looking for in terms of legal status for marijuana? Do you want it to be completely legal under all circumstances?
Well, I think it should be legal for adults. I don't think it's healthy for minors to use.
Point.
There's good scientific reasons to suggest that certainly anyone under the age of 16 is compromising their physical and mental development, and it should be treated much like alcohol. And I believe everyone over the age of 18, 19, whatever the legal drinking age is, I see that, you know, no difference. If we're going to, again, live in a free society, we should have the choice to our own poison, if it were.
But are you talking mainly about personal use, or are you looking to legalize the industrialization of marijuana?
I'm very much in support of the use of hemp and all of its applications, if that's what you mean. Like, we advocate for the use of it as food, as a fuel, as a building material, as paper, clothing,
Hemp has extensive uses, but certainly
But you're looking also at the retail marijuana industry.
Oh yeah, it needs to be legalized to take the money away from organized criminal groups that right now are having a heyday. It's a cash cow for them.
Yeah.
It's the easiest source for people that are kind of organized of criminal intent to make money.
But how would legalizing marijuana for personal use, which is what Colorado and Washington are doing, how does that in any way affect the large and illegal marijuana industry that's operating now?
People would prefer to buy a product that they knew was safe in an environment that was safe, where products could be tested for chemical content and THC content in a place where they could smoke it openly and freely. And if that kind of environment was made and it was an option for people, they would take it.
But there are almost no places where you can smoke tobacco openly and legally anymore, let alone marijuana.
I realize that that the idea of coffee shops would take some changes of law in that respect, but I do think that it's possible to go that route, and it would have a tremendous impact on our economies if we actually embraced it and legalized these small businesses.
By some accounts, the polls suggest that 66% of Canadians support this. Why isn't it legal already in a country where 2/3 of the people say they like the idea?
The politicians are scared of the few remaining people that are opposed to this. It seems as though there's a very right-wing, if you would, or very militant group of anti-prohibitionists, and politicians are afraid of their wrath. And it's now that the population is on board, I would hope that they would speak more openly. But
what about the health argument in a country where we pay for health with taxpayers' dollars? I mean, we don't know the precise effects, but we do know that persistent marijuana use causes lung damage, can lead to memory problems. Given our experience with tobacco and all of its negatives, why would we want to encourage more people to do anything that ultimately could make them sick?
Well, the major difference is that cannabis can actually help fight cancer, and in some cases can even cure it. So it's, the scientific evidence...
It can cure it?
Yes.
What cancer can be cured by marijuana?
Most recently, I know of a member of my club who had anal cancer, and she put an oil in her rectum every day until the oil was gone.
And did some competent medical authority conclude that the marijuana oil cured the cancer?
And she'll be testifying in our trial in February to that. I know of other cases where cancer has been cured or at least helped with the use of cannabis.
Even having said that, and even if it were true, though, we do know that smoking anything is not good for your lungs.
No, it's not. And that's why the legalization would allow for alternative uses, especially eating it, because as an edible, it's a lot healthier for people. And so if a person, say with arthritis, was to eat cannabis, they'd actually be using a lot less prescription drugs than they are. They would feel better, they'd sleep better, and really, when it comes to actually the health costs compared to the health benefits, we would see a lowering of surgeries, of critical health care costs that are occurring now because prescription drugs that people are using are killing them.
Would we see more driving while stoned?
I think that that's probably the biggest concern that authorities would have, is people driving under the influence. And so of all the regulations that would be looked for is a way to concern for that. But statistically speaking, it's not as dangerous as alcohol is.
But still dangerous.
But it
not
is.
a good idea.
Yeah, especially for youth.
You don't drive while stoned.
Well, I do occasionally, I would admit, but it's something that for me, I sort of joke at times, I may use cannabis for road rage. It helps slow me down, and in some sense, I would think to be a more careful driver.
It is an interesting argument from a very plain-spoken guy. Ted Smith. It's called Hempology 101. We appreciate you coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
To talk to you. It's also on the web poll out there now, if you like this idea, yay or nay. CTV at Atlantic News. Back in just a moment.
All right, so now that we're back, we're going to move on. The Canadian Medical Association has polled their doctors. No, Chris, not the kind of polls that you like.
No, he did.
So, basically, it was a survey. It was done June 2012, and our report on them, most of this is quoting them anyway. But when queried, 35% of those respondents who had been asked about access said that they never support such requests. While 40% would do so at least some of the time, another 25% of physician respondents said they would seldom be willing to provide patient access to medical marijuana.
Thanks for nothing.
When respondents were asked to provide multiple responses about the factors that would affect their decisions on medical marijuana for their patients, responses were varied. The top 3 factors were concern that patients who request medical marijuana may actually want it for recreational purposes. 64%.
I'm so tired of that. Isn't all use medicinal? If you're going home to relax, okay, that's your recreation. You go home at the end of the day, you smoke a joint to relax. You call it recreation, I call it relaxation. Okay.
Or at the very least, it's a reason why they should legalize it all, so that the doctors don't have to worry about this problem.
Because if they're not going to smoke a joint, they're going to take a Xanax or a Valium to unwind at the end of the day. Or they're going to take a drink. What's wrong with it just being a joint instead? Okay, next.
Out of the top 3 factors, the second one, insufficient information on the risks and benefits of marijuana when used for medical purposes. 57%. There's not enough information on medical marijuana.
Yeah, I wasn't even going to interrupt you. I'll let you get the next one.
Third one, insufficient information regarding the appropriate use of marijuana for medical purposes.
And that's perfect. The last 2 reasons are both solved with the
56%.
No, with that committee.
Oh yes, the committee. Yeah.
Then they can call and get the answers to those questions. I understand that they don't know. Okay, but if there's a committee put in place to help them know, the expert advisory committee, then they have a resource to use. So both of those don't count anymore.
How come the Canadian Medical Association never felt like it was their duty, or the provincial colleges never felt like it was their duty to abide by the regulations?
You said duty.
I mean, if the doctors became responsible for it, in a way, weren't the colleges responsible? I don't know.
I stopped listening. You didn't even crack a smile.
Yeah, because you said yeah, well, it's an old joke.
I know, but it doesn't mean it's not a funny joke.
Every time I say duty, yeah, he loves it. I can't help it. Laugh away. I love it. CTV Atlantic web poll. Do you support the legalization and regulation of marijuana for personal use?
I do.
69% of people did.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But it's not just them. There's 2 other studies on top of that, within like a couple of days of each other, all supporting it. There was one on CTV like the day before that, showing that I think they said 63% were in favor of it. And now you said there was another one done here.
Now this one's a little different. It's not just any internet poll that people all across the internet can do. This one was done
like a little internet poll.
All right, according to the poll released Tuesday by Toronto's Forum Research, 65% of Canadians favor either the legalization and taxation of the drug or decriminalizing it in small amounts. Very few want the law to be as it is, said the Forum president, pointing out that 17% believe Canada's current pot laws should remain, while 15% want tougher rules.
You didn't want to say her name, did you? Lauren Bozanov?
Yeah, I'm terrible at names, so I didn't want to say her name. That's good. That's good. You can say them.
The Forum president's name is Lauren Bozanov.
On Monday, Forum Research polled 1,849 randomly selected people over the telephone. So you just gotta wait by the phone, buddy, and they'll be able to poll you.
They're gonna call. Oh wait.
And it was an interactive voice response survey.
Like
so what makes that significant is it was a random phone calls to people, and 65% still wanted it legalized or decriminalized.
So what that means is if your phone's not ringing, that's Lauren not calling. Okay, just to be aware.
Yeah, that's logically true.
It is.
Irvin Rosenfeld.
Irvin. Woohoo!
Tuesday, November 20th, marked the 30 years of Florida stockbroker Irvin Rosenfeld receiving 10 to 12 marijuana cigarettes a day from the United States federal government for treating a severe bone tumor disorder. Yeah? I'm not reading this one. This one's yours.
Rihanna was wearing a marijuana leaf shirt on stage live the other day. She was in Berlin recently, where she was seen wearing a racy see-through top that had a cannabis leaf printed on it. She also has a white t-shirt with a black and white photo that shows how to roll a joint, and another tank top has pictures of cannabis leaves with the message, pick me, roll me, burn me. The tank top was a gift from her best friend, and Rihanna tweeted about it saying, my best friend got me this tea today, my new fave. Okay, it's just nice to see her. And Lady Gaga was just like last month, she came out at a concert, I think it was in Amsterdam, talking about medical marijuana, and she thought how she was enjoying that. So it's nice to see other artists now coming out and supporting of it, not being scared about what other people are going to think.
Yeah.
It's nice to have an opinion. Okay, then we got we got Dr. Reefer locally. He's
Canada locally.
Canada locally, yeah. It's the brainchild of epileptic medical cannabis patient Ken Kirk, former leader of the Medical Marijuana Party of Alberta. Sorry, not the medical. It was just the Marijuana Party of Alberta. And Miss Ganja Soldier. During the last 2 weeks, the Dr. Reefer band has climbed the charts at Reverb Nation rather rapidly, and during that time, their global fan base has grown 47% as well. Here's the link to the site. Check it out. It's not my kind of music, but it's definitely well thought out lyrics and something worthwhile listening to if you have nothing else going on.
Uruguay introduces marijuana legalization bill. Lawmakers on Thursday introduced a bill in Congress to legally regulate marijuana.
And they could beat Colorado and Washington having this implemented. I know Colorado and Washington are on the roll, but this could be law before it actually is down there. So
the bill now allows for home cultivation of up to 6 plants and membership clubs with a maximum of 15 members per club. Personal possession will be 40 grams, around 1.5 ounces of marijuana.
Right on.
All right, so the next show.
Well, not sure what we're going to be talking about. I was supposed to have a couple of interviews to show you guys. They didn't all come to be, so we'll see what we can get together for an interview next episode. And we'll be getting back into the contests, I think, next episode.
We'll try to contact Tamara and ask her about some stuff that she was doing. She was posting about Conroy and Company, I think a law firm. Blah, blah, blah. But we'll try to get all that information for you for the next show. So that's going to be there.
Absolutely. So we want to thank you for watching the show. We want to thank the Computer Tuner for providing the equipment we use to make the show possible. And we want to mention that Karma Compassion is still accepting donations for John and the former member of the Cannabis Buyers of Club of Canada. And you can get a hold of us on YouTube here or on Facebook and let us know where we can come pick up any donations you might have. Peace, love, and hippie shit. Take care of yourselves and have a good day.
Poll.
Poll.
Duty.
Shut her down.